Hello everyone, and welcome to this session on the Predictor LimA software in relation to our version 2020, which has just been released. My name is Douglas Manville, and I'm with colleague Erwin Hatter van Bander. We'll run through this session with you today. For your information, you're all on mute. That means it will not be possible to raise questions oral via audio during this meeting, but you can write the questions in the question box, and at the end of the session, Erwin and I will answer those questions that have come in. All right, so let's get going. So Predictor LimA is the market's most powerful and intuitive software for environmental noise calculation. Let me just get my pointer. There we go. And the reason for this is that it's an extremely efficient software package for environmental noise projects because it bundles a range of software, the two most important ones being Predictor and LimA. Predictor is intuitive and makes real-life modeling in accordance with standards, enables you to do that very quickly and accurately. And LimA is a very flexible solution which provides tools to do in-depth specialist work and also to fully integrate environmental noise calculations in other systems such as GIS or traffic management systems. So the suite bundles the intuitive Predictor and the flexible LimA into one integrated state-of-the-art package, which means that no matter whichever problem you have, we have the best solution for every project, allowing you to do quick and easy environmental noise calculation and analysis. Some of the unique and useful functions in the system include macros, which are utilized for automation of repetitive tasks. And this is unique functionality supported by the LimA command line interface. And it means that you can avoid human error and get work done quickly and easily. Even in medium-sized projects, you'll see that there are quite a few repetitive tasks. In addition, you've got unique multi-model viewing. In Predictor, you can compare side-by-side two models and results for easy comparison using the standards Windows functionality. And also unique to Predictor is the modeling license. So with one license, licensing dongle, you can use the Predictor system on a range of multiple computers in your network. And that allows you to model on each of these computers, and then transfer the calculation load to that computer which has the license and the dongle installed on it, so that you can work on the Predictor system on several linked PCs without having to pay extra for additional users. If you want more calculation power, then of course you need to pay for that. Data integrity is an important aspect. An example of that is in Predictor, as if the model has changed, then we remove calculated results. And that ensures that you don't get a mismatch between the results you see on the screen and the data that you can see that you've inputted. And another unique function is unlimited undo and redo function, which makes modeling in practice much easier. So if you think you've made a mistake, you can go back and check it. Or if you have made a mistake, you can go back to the point at which you've made that and then continue. Predictor also has an intuitive Windows user interface, including copy, paste, select all, and undo using standard Windows shortcuts that makes it easy to pick up and learn, even for those users who are not using the software very frequently. And a final example of unique and useful functions is the direct import of measured data from a range of sound level meters from Bruden Care. So I'll now hand over to Erwin, who will run you through the majority of the changes in Predictor LimA version 2020. I'll do the LimA part, and then at the end we'll hand over back to me. So Erwin, would you like to do this on your computer? Erwin, I managed to mute you, I think. So, Erwin, can you make your audio active again? I'm trying to.
Yes, now I'm there. Thank
good.
you.
Good.
Okay, so you had cut me off. Yeah.
I managed to mute everybody. I didn't mean to mute you. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody from The Hague in the Netherlands. If we look at the overall scope of the Predictor LimA version, we put a lot of effort on the CNOSSOS-EU calculation method, and it's now based on the draft quality assurance standard, the ISO 17534-4. Part 4, and that includes about 28 test cases. So we can prove that we calculate according to this CNOSSOS-EU method. And this draft ISO quality assurance standard was dated the 1st of October this year. And this morning, I heard from you, Douglas, in fact, that this is most likely going to be the final quality assurance standard for CNOSSOS. So this means, in fact, Predictor LimA is the first software that can comply fully to the CNOSSOS-EU method. And we have also included in the setup and on the website a declaration of conformity to the CNOSSOS-EU method. Next is also increased usability and user experience with additional data input, modeling and reporting options. I will show you some of these later on during this session. We have fixed some problems, and the installation file is smaller. That means that your download is quicker, your installation is quicker, and also starting the software is quicker. Douglas, shall we hand over to my screen? Maybe that's easier.
Yes, just doing that now. 1 second.
Okay. Show my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
I've got it, Erwin.
It's almost the same as yours, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, so the portfolio. If you look at the portfolio, the number of configurations, in 2018, we changed the portfolio for Predictor LimA from 9 configurations to 5. And it makes it much clearer and much easier to select which configuration you would like to use. And so we've got now 5, starting with the top end 7810B for full scale, for large scale noise mapping, for instance, for the European noise mapping projects, the B version. Then the A version is for long stretches of highway or railway. Then the G version is for standard models, all for railway, industrial noise, road traffic noise, rail traffic noise, etc. The B, the A, and the G configuration, all 3 includes both the LimA and the Predictor software, and also the CNOSSOS calculation method. Then, if you go to the right, the last 2 configurations, the C and the I, they only include the Predictor calculation software, excluding the CNOSSOS method. However, it does include calculation methods like ISO 9613, NMPB, CRTN, Harmonize. So all the methods supported and implemented in Predictor are available except the CNOSSOS method. Also, what you see is that we have increased the number of cores, at least if you compare it to the previous versions, version 12 and older. The top end now supports 8 cores, so that is really for large scale, large models, of course. The Plus, the 7810A configuration supports 4 cores, the standard 2 cores, then the Predictor Basic Plus supports 4 cores, and the I, entry level, supports 2 cores. Like I said, LimA is included in the B, A, and G. Predictor is included in all 5 configurations. In the 2 top-end configurations, the B and the A, also acoustic determinator is included. And acoustic determinator is a convenient piece of software to calculate the sound power level of sources based on measured sound pressure levels close to the sources. So we've implemented several measurement standards in acoustic determinator. Also in Acoustic Determinator, you can import directly from Breuil & Kjær measurement, equipment, and there's also an acoustic spreadsheet in Acoustic Determinator, allowing you to calculate the energetic average, the energetic summation, the energetic average, decibel summation, etc. Differences, and that's easy. That's convenient if you have such projects. Then for the LimA software, there's an add-on for aircraft noise, the LimA aircraft module, and that can be added to the B, A, and G configurations as an optional add-on module. And then also for the LimA software, there's an optional LimA graphic user interface to use LimA also on other computers. LimA, basically standard, can be used on one computer, and Douglas already explained that Predictor can be used on all computers in the network. So there's a slight difference in use of Predictor and LimA, all within one license. Then looking at the CNOSSOS-EU, I just said it, we implemented CNOSSOS-EU based on the latest version of the quality assurance standard, dated 1st of October this year. And this makes Predictor LimA the first software to be in compliance of this quality assurance standard. And we, in case the final version differs from draft, we of course will update Predictor LimA, but as it seems to be now, this draft will be the final version of this quality assurance standard. Then looking at Predictor, I will handle the new features in Predictor, and Douglas will handle the new features in LimA. If you look at Predictor, there's now a new input option for A, C, and non-weighted sound power levels. In previous versions of Predictor, only A-weighted sound power levels could be entered. Now you can select what type of spectrum you are entering as a sound power level. There's a new font setting option. I will display it. I will show it later during this session. There's a new LMAX option. I'll also display it. It's especially convenient for moving sources. Now we also can show PDF files as a background map. So next to your shape files, your DXF, your CAT files, your bitmap files, your web map service, online files, and views, you can also use PDF files as background map. An analyst, last in this list, an analyst model now also supports GPS calibration point items, and that means that you can also export your cumulated contours to KML and Google Earth. And an analyst model is in fact a model that can use all type of calculated results. You can directly use calculated results from Predictor in an analyst model, and then, for instance, accumulate road traffic noise, industrial noise, and rail traffic noise. But you can also import directly other type of files. Could be shape files, could be text files, calculated by other software. Could be LimA, but could also be CatNA, SoundPlan, other type of software. You can actually integrate all those results in a Predictor analyst module, and then also calculate and confront your cumulated contours with demographic information, such as number of people and number of dwellings. So you can calculate within an analyst model the number of people exposed to road traffic noise, air traffic noise, industrial noise, etc. So it's a very strong and powerful item. We could spend an hour on that item, but I won't do that. Then improved functionality. Like I said, Predictor starts faster because we also made the executable smaller and the setup is smaller, and I will explain later why that is. We have increased the performance for large models. Now the import of, for instance, DXF file is faster. Large DXF files, of course. I mean, small files, it takes within a second you're importing a small file. I'm talking now large models. Faster import, faster calculation of the terrain model, faster creation of the 3D view. We have also now based the export to KML to based on the display options. In the previous version of Predictor, all items are always exported to a KML file if you choose to do so. That means if you have hundreds of thousands of grid points, all these grid points are also exported to KML. And if you then try to open it in Google Earth said, sorry, this file is too large. So Google Earth did not like that. So now we base the export on the display option. So before you use the export to KML, you can simply deselect to display the grid points, and then your file will be much smaller. And then, of course, the calculated contours together with the buildings, for instance, is a nice view in Google Earth. You've got the 3D buildings and your calculated 3D contours. There's some other options. It's not that interesting for now, I guess. Let me see what is interesting. Well, for users who are used to Predictor, they would like that the X and Y coordinates are also added now to the table of result. There's a delete option in the mouse menu, not really interesting for now. What is interesting, however, for people who are using Predictor for the European noise maps, we've now extended the tool's building results option to work on all receivers within a certain distance from the nearest building, regardless if they are linked to a building or not. In Predictor, there's an option to create receivers around the buildings. We call it receivers at facades, based on the spacing between the receivers and also based on the height of the buildings. All those receivers can then be calculated, and with the tool's building results, you could then select all those receivers around the buildings and then calculate the highest level per building, for instance. And that also makes it possible to count the number of dwellings within 5 dB noise class. So that's all based and made for this European noise map support. There's a new option for catalogs. There are now several catalogs in Predictor, and we decided to have a specific menu option where you can find all those catalog files. Let me see in the menu option, result contours and result labels. Yes, you can now show the result and control values of the foreground and the background model in one view, and that's easy. There you can compare your results between two models. Then we have added the method 2a from the CNOSSOS calculation document, the calculation method, and this method 2a describes exactly how you should distribute your receivers around buildings in order to calculate your European noise exposure, according to the CNOSSOS method. So that's a nice add-on, a nice extra feature. Text source results on the calculation settings have been changed in source and octave results. It was not always clear to people. And we have now changed the input of a ground factor in the LimA CNOSSOS model. You can now type in a factor between 0.0 and 1.0 and not a letter between A and H. The A and the letters A until H were given in the CNOSSOS method, but that's only a limited list. So now you can actually do more types of ground areas. We've also discontinued some functionality. In Predictor, there's no LimA link option anymore. This LimA link option is removed for types G, A, and B. And that was an option to start, in fact, the LimA 5 GUI. However, as LimA already is included in types G, A, and B, the customer does not lose this functionality. So that's also why Predictor is a smaller setup, starts quicker. So that makes sense. We also discontinued the calculation client package because the 7810B now already supports 8 cores, and that's much more than an additional calculation client. So in fact, you do not need any client calculation client package anymore. So that makes it's a much more cost-efficient solution, the 7810B configuration. If you have a 16-core computer and you want to utilize all 16 cores, then you can purchase additional cores support as a customized product. I will now switch to Predictor and show you some of the new features. So this is one Predictor project. This is the demonstration project that's delivered with Predictor itself. You can always open the demonstration project. Here you see the organization structure of a Predictor project. Predictor organizes its data in areas, versions, and models. Areas and versions are simply folders within your project. So don't think, ooh, what is an area, what's a version? They are basically folders within your project, and you can create new folders with these buttons. An area is a top folder and a version is a subfolder. So here you see there's a top folder, example models industry. There's a subfolder karting, and in this subfolder karting, there are 3 models, ISO 9613 models with different names. And I will open this one, the copy of 1 race, 1 vehicle, 10 laps. So here you see the 2D view of the model. All these small points are grid points. Well, first of all, let us take off the grid points. They only are confusing. Then if you zoom in, you see a bitmap as a background. And here you see the race track and all the sources have names, and I've selected to show the labels next to the sources. The new option is now to increase and the font type or change the text color and put the labels in frames. And that makes it much more easier and clearer to read the names. What you see here is that we have put in the corners as a separate point source. So the corners are point sources, and in the corners, of course, the cards make more noise. So you see the sound power level of the cards going around the corner. And then if you go down, you see also a point source for the start. This is the start position, and that, of course, is also a high sound power level. Of course, not only short in time, but there's a high sound power level. Then this is the straight track, and that has a certain sound power level. So that's how we divided up these sources. Then if we want to know the calculated results on the dwelling, you double click on the receiver, you click on results, and here you see the equivalent noise level on this dwelling is 31.5 for dBA. New now is the LA Max option. Oh, sorry, before I do that, I click on the day header, and then you see that the straight track is the dominant source in the equivalent noise level, 29.85 dBA. Then if I click on the LA Max option, you see that the LA Max is 58 dBA, and that the start source is the dominant source. And the straight track is also quite heavy, but the dominant source is the start. So here you can see and the new option of the LA Max. So both the LAQ and the LA Max. So let me see what else. The catalog option. So there's now a new catalog menu option. We will fill this in the next version of Predictor. You will see more catalogs here because Predictor does support more catalogs. For instance, if you double click on a point source and you go to the emission, then there's a small folder icon next to the sound power level. And here you see the type of noise. The input is either dBA, dBc, or non-weighted. And you see that automatically Predictor creates an A-weighted sound power levels always. If it's a dBA already, then of course there's no weighting. If it's a C weighting, then Predictor will convert the C-weighted spectrum to an A-weighted spectrum, because when the calculation is started, Predictor always uses an A-weighted spectrum for the calculation, and the result therefore is also A-weighted. But let's keep it on this one. Coming back on this folder icon, if you click on the folder, you see a list of source powers, of sound powers. And this is in fact taken from the file sourcepower_octave.cat, and cat means a catalog file. So there are much more catalog files available. These are all in the Predictor program folder. And what we've done is we have made a editor option. In this case, the web map service is also such a catalog file, and these can already be edited. So these are all URLs to your local web map server, your favorite web map servers. Could be an OpenStreetMap or another local web map service. Let me see, I think that's what I wanted to show you now. Let me see. Yep. Oh, sorry. No, we have also fixed some problems, of course. So for the Predictor users under you, you will find it very convenient that we've changed the way the point sources are created for an area source, because area sources now automatically create at least one point source. Because in the previous version, when you used a large X and Y steps, you could end up having no result for an area source, and that's of course not so convenient. There was a bug fixed for the LimA CNOSSOS method. The pressure and the air humidity were swapped. We have now changed the default height definition of all the receivers that you can create around facades with this menu option from absolute to relative. That made much more sense. The TNM implementation made an error in some cases when you entered a road. There was a header textual change. The zoom to selection did not work when the selection only 1 pixel. When you use the option file import cat file, so a DXF or a DWG file, then the groups were always created despite unchecking the group box checkbox. There was a wrong warning in some cases with moving sources, and in some cases when you imported height lines from DXF, it could lead to height lines with an incorrect height. And Predictor could already detect that, because in Predictor there's an option check model, but we have solved that anyway. Okay, Douglas, I think you can take over from here.
Thank you, Alan. So as far as those are the changes in Predictor, the major changes in Predictor for version 2020. Likewise, for LimA version 2020, there are the following, I'll call them highlights, key aspects of the change in 3 of the modules. So you've got the LimA 5, which is a user interface module. You've got LimA 7, which is the calculation module. And you've got LimA 9, which is the analysis module. And there's some pretty key changes in each of these 3 modules. I'll run through the majority of these over the next couple of slides, but I'll just give you an overview. So in the user interface, there's some new commands in there, and for those of you who know use LimA, then you know that the command line interface is a key part of LimA, enabling and aiding the macro functionality. But the digital terrain model command, a value command, DTMVal, is improved to be able to retrieve local terrain heights. And I'll come in to show that on one of the slides coming here, an example of that. In addition, there's a new analysis command in the user interface called AnalyzeZ, which looks at extreme values on a particular vertex, on a particular cross section. And there has been a fix in the user interface that when you were using Windows 10 with when you were zoomed in to the on your user interface with text sizes that were greater than 100%, then you had some issues with LimA. That has now been resolved. As far as the LimA 7 calculation module is concerned, then we've updated the CNOSSOS calculation module to enable it to be within the ISO standard, which defines how you implement the CNOSSOS method, which Owen explained a little bit earlier. In addition, the rosette result display is improved, and I'll spend a little bit of time with that in a few minutes to show you, those of you who don't know the rosette result display, but also to describe the improvements. Excuse me. And finally, in the analysis module, there's a new option which will search for 100 meters away from a particular area, a particular contour point, in order to create more accurate contours more quickly and easily. So you know that the denser you make your contour points in a grid, the more accurate your results are interpolated, but the more calculation time you require. You can simplify or reduce the calculation time by having a lower number of calculation points and a coarser resolution. But when you try and do noise contours on that, you sometimes get some strange results. And this is an option which resolves interpolation of contours in LimA when you're dealing with large buildings. So in large buildings, you end up with a lot of indoor or non-calculated air levels, and that creates some problems sometimes for creating those contours. So this new option has been introduced. And as Erwin said, all these changes, as well as the ones in Predictor, are described in the respective README files that are included in the installation. But I'll now go through some of the individual enhancements one by one. I'll start with the digital terrain model validation command, the DTM-val command. So on the bottom left, you've got a couple of screen shots of a before and after situation, but the model itself is explained over here on the right hand side. So I have a road going from left to right, or from right to left, and another road is crossing it on a bridge. That bridge is supported by two embankments. You've got the top end of the embankment here and the bottom here for the north part, and you've got a similar embankment edge down to the south of the road. The blue line here is the center line of the road going across the other road, and one of those on the bridge, and the bridge center line is indicated here in the green line here. And you've got a couple of barriers on the edges of the bridge, which has got a defined width, which have either got relative or absolute height. And the trick is to be able to get this bridge to align with the embankments so that you get a smooth road, so your road doesn't all of a sudden have a step in it. And either through importing data or through creating, you may get a bridge item like this here, which is modeled relative to the terrain below it. And the bottom left-hand corner, we've used the DTM-val command to find out what the heights are at the nodes of this bridge centerline object. And you can see here it's 3.8 meters and 3.88 meters, or 3.87 and 3.88 meters, where the actual top of the embankment is 8 meters. So really what we want is the bridge to be on the same height as the top of the embankment, in other words, 8 meters. So by finding out you've got this discrepancy, you can correct that and then use the DTM-val command one more time just to validate and check that you have actually placed the bridge correctly at 8 meters height and 8 meters height, absolute height, so that they are aligned with the embankments. So that enables is a very nice way of looking at it, and that's been enhanced, so it supports an additional set of objects. Another one I'd like to explain about is called the analyze command, or the analyze command, which you put a cross section or a test slant, a line across, for example, some grid results. This could be noise contours, this could be air pollution, this could be really anything at all. And then you utilize the analyze Z command to find out what the values are. Now on the bottom of the screen here, you can see it's also possible to display the individual points at each along this line here in the decibel values. So for example, you've got high levels here and you've got lower levels going away from the road and even lower levels here in this hidden area, this shielded area. But it's maybe not so easy to find out what the highest value and what the lowest values are. And that's what the analyze Z command does. And it shows the results in a small window showing the highest and the lowest values on the selected polygon. So it's been used to analyze air pollution grid results. It's been used to look at noise calculation results, and it's also to enable to look at other parameters on any polygon, so you can have a look and find out what range of values you have in there. And it's really useful to see if you've got any outliers on results that you're not expecting. A third enhancement that I'll describe is the Rosette result display enhancement. But before I describe the enhancement, I will perhaps describe a little bit what the Rosette result display is, because it may not be known to many of what this result format actually is. So at the bottom left-hand corner here, you'll see I have a building angled, so it's like 45 degrees, and around the building I've got receiver points, and the receiver points in this example are at multiple heights. To the south of the building I've got a road, and between the road and the building there is a barrier, and behind the road there's some reflector. That could be another barrier effectively, or it could be a long row of buildings. So you want to know, using the Rosette result format, as to where the contributions to the noise levels at each receiver point are coming. And if you look at the picture on the top right-hand corner, this is the Rosette result display as it has been in the past. You see it in 2 dimensions, and you see if you take this example here on the receiver point towards the south of the building, the length of the vector shows the relative contribution in that direction of noise coming from here. And you can see that close to the house, of course, there's a very high contribution to the noise levels, but also over here and towards the west, you see there's a significant contribution coming around the barrier. And in this example, you'll see that the entire rosette is only facing south, because there is no sources to the north of the building. As you can see here, there's only the road to the south, and almost infinitely long road in this model, a very, very long road, certainly. And here you can see the contributions in different directions. And you also see that behind the facade, then the contribution from around the barrier is much higher than the other parts of the facade. But you may realize that receiver points around the facade of a building are quite often at multiple heights. And therefore, in this version of LimA, the 3D view of the Rosette result display has been implemented. And the picture you can see here shows that we have actually 1, 2, 3, 4 different receiver heights, and you can see the individual contributions at each receiver point of the sources in different directions to the levels at that particular receiver point at that particular height. And it will differ, and it does differ from receiver point at one level to another one. And actually what this screenshot also shows is just some of the nice rendering that you can add in onto the objects in LimA 3D views. So this is just an example of how it's done, and really having the 3D view when you have these multiple heights, multiple receiver heights on buildings is really, really useful. So I'd just like to commend the Rosette results display to and show the change, which makes it even more valuable. So Erwin, I'll just run through the slides that are supplementing what you showed, and just let me know if there's anything you want to say. If you talk, I'll zip through them.
Okay. Thank you, Douglas. This is what I showed during the session. This is where you can select the A, the C, or the non-weighted sound power level, and the output is always A-weighted, yes. Then the new option for the font settings for all labels. You can show the label in frame, and that makes it also much clearer to see, especially on a noise contour map or on a bitmap as a background. So that's a nice new option. Yes, next one, please. Then I've shown you the new option for LA Max, and you're seeing that the start is dominant on the maximum noise level. And so you can easily now switch between the calculated LEQ level and the calculated LA Max level in the table of results. Yes, Douglas. These are the catalog files in the Predictor program folder. There are several catalog files. In this table, they are shown. There's a building usage.cat, the isolation octave.cat, and in this table you see for which item this is used. For instance, the isolation octave.cat is used for an emitting facade and emitting roof for the indoor-outdoor calculation. And the source power octave.cat is the list I've shown you during the presentation, and that is just a list with sound power levels taken from the BS5228 method, the UK method, which gives you a full overview of all kind of equipment used in digging and in caving. And also I've added the sound powers of the European Imagine project, which we have gathered in a tool called SourceDB that's also in the same catalog. So it's a quite extensive catalog now that's within the Predictor setup, so that's available for the user. Then there's a catalog wind profiles.cat, and that could be your local wind profile settings from your local meteorological station, and that's specifically for the wind turbine item. And there are web map services catalogs and catalog and web map tiled service catalog, and that is used in the menu options view background maps, of course the catalog menu option itself. Thank you, Douglas. Yep,
Yeah, thank you,
over to
Owen.
you.
Yeah, thank you. So we've updated a documentation. Naturally, the product data sheet is updated to reflect the latest changes in the product, as well as the installation manual. Installation has not changed significantly. Well, not really changed at all, except that it's a new version. We just updated the manual to make sure that all the references are correct. We have also updated the Predictor help files, so it's relevant now to the changes made in the version 2020. And if you look at the README files, both for Predictor and for LimA, you'll get full details of the changes which have been made. So to summarize before we open up for questions, the version 2020 is released in the end of last month. Let me just hide this so I can see the entire bit of my screen. And with this, Predictor LimA is the first software to state documented compliance with the CNOSSOS method in accordance with the ISO 17543 standard, part 4, which relates to CNOSSOS-EU method. And the ISO 17543 series of standards is this quality assurance of software implementation. So that is an agreed implementation of all implemented methodology in that series of standards. So your software must meet that standard. It's an agreement. And this makes Predictor LimA a unique solution for making strategic noise maps. European Union requires strategic noise maps for cities and for national ground transport infrastructure using the now mandatory CNOSSOS-EU method. The European Union now requires that we all use the CNOSSOS-EU method for strategic noise maps. And that makes Predictor LimA now unique in being able to offer the CNOSSOS-EU method in line with this ISO QA standard. As Owen mentioned, we've also enhanced usability and user experience with additional data inputs, additional modeling, additional reporting options, and fixed some problems identified which ensure that you continue to have a good user experience. And we have, as Owen intimated at the start, removed some rarely used functionality, some unnecessary functionality, in order to optimize product development and make sure we continue to have the optimal product quality of there. Now, with this, we're changing the name of the software just to indicate that we have the version 2020 available. It does actually mean that we have new licenses. And I'm just going to open up a web page. First of all, I just go to EMS Broad & Care's web page on Predictor LimA, and here you can see that there is a link from this page both to the new product datasheet, but also to the software portfolio download, and also to the technical support portal, as well as a range of training material, how-to videos on this page here. But if I follow this link now to the download page, you'll see that we have updated the page to where you, as usual, download the latest version of the software, and to get your licenses, because now we're changing version number, you need a new license. So to get a hold of your license, go to your technical support portal, enter in your key ID, and then you'll have access to your new license. All of that, of course, requires that you have a valid software maintenance and support agreement. So, for those of you who have a valid software support and maintenance agreement, your contract is valid and paid, then you are welcome to send your technical questions regarding the new version as a support request, ticket in footprints, or if you've lost a link to that, you can send it to cms@emsbk.com. Erwin and I will stay on the line for some questions at the end of the session, but if you come up with some after we finished, then this is your way of getting answers to those questions. For those users who no longer have valid support and maintenance contracts, then please contact your local EMS Broad & Care representative for inquiries. He'll be able to enable you to renew your support and maintenance contract and be able to help you out with technical support in the meantime. And this session was primarily sent out to people who have valid support and maintenance contracts, but we did invite other people to join, as you can see. So for those of you who are new to Predictor LimA and you're interested, then please contact your local EMS Broad & Care representative for a quote. Now, all of you actually, if you want to have a look at the product data sheet and the videos, I do recommend looking at our website for that and for more information. We will send out the material used here to you at the end of after the session is complete in a few days. So just to conclude, before I open up for the questions, then yeah, hopefully we have given you some idea, although we didn't spend a lot of time, on why we think Predictor LimA is the market's most powerful and intuitive software for environmental noise calculation. And we've shown you some of the highlights that we have here. So what I'll do now is I will go on to the questions. I'll just do that. And I also had, there was a chat I saw as well. There's a PDF manual. That's a question. Yes, there is a manual that is installed. So let me go back to here. So this is take a little time. But when you download your software from this page here, When you install the software, the manuals, both for the installation manual for Predictor and the other manuals, which include one for LimA, are included. For Predictor, I don't believe there is a manual other than the installation manual. But for LimA, there is an additional manual because it's very much a reference document.
Predictor has a PDF in the doc folder, in the program folder, and that includes a complete help file. So you have a PDF file of the complete help file. Yeah,
thank
and
you.
that's quite a large document.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Good. So if you've got further questions, then please do send them to us. I've lost the questions now. I'm sure they're around here somewhere. There we are. All right, if you have no further questions and you're not interested in finding if anybody else has got any questions, then we thank you for joining us, and you're free to go. But Alvin and I will stay online for the next few minutes, in the expectation that there will be more questions coming in. I've got to learn how to use the system here. And hopefully we'll be able to get that sorted. Yeah, I received a question from Gary, and that's about demo dongles. So for those of you who are distributors, the demo dongle system has changed. You have to purchase a dongle. Gary, send me an email. I'll get it. It should have been mentioned out to you guys in the past, but as always, if we repeat our statements, a bigger chance of remembering them. We'll get that sorted out for you. Just send me an email, Gary, and we'll get that sorted. Or send Laura an email, actually, is better. So what I'll do is I'll stop recording now. So if any of you do want to ask questions but are not